Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and listening into the podcast. I really appreciate you. And because you've been such a faithful listeners, you helped us get ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for listening in. And if you would, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast because that helps us reach even more people so they can be inspired by our podcast too. All right. Now, today, I'm really excited about the conversation that I'm going to have. So I'm really excited to talk to Riya Kurian. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Riya. She's the founder of Next Horizon, a boutique travel planning company that curates personalized, meaningful trips across Europe and beyond. And Ria shares how a spontaneous year teaching in France ignited her passion for cultural connection and solo travel, eventually leading her to leave the corporate world and launch her own business. And I can't wait to hear more from Ria. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so you heard me just give a little bit of an introduction, but why don't you tell us in your own words two things? Anything you want to say about yourself in general? We'll get into the story more later, but
Mhm.
anything you want to say about yourself generally and then about the work you do?
Yep. So, like you said, I'm Riya. I'm the founder of Next Horizon. We are a boutique travel company that focuses on highly personalized trips across Europe. Um, my background is actually in law, so by trade I am a lawyer. So it's quite the switch to now say that I'm a founder of a travel company, but here I am. Lots of twists and turns to how I got there, but we'll get into all that. But the short story is that I've always loved travel. I've been traveling often solo for about 10 years now.
Oh,
And so, for me, travel went beyond just sightseeing at a lot of the times. Of course, there is sightseeing. Obviously, you're traveling, you're seeing things. But it just kind of brought something else in me, it made me feel a certain way. So throughout the 10 years, while I did all these various other things, eventually law school and being a lawyer, travel was always my constant through all of that. So now it's what I get to do for a living as well. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me and my company and all that. Yeah.
I love that story because of you said there's lots of twists and turns, but I
Yeah.
love it because already I'm intrigued. I don't know if people listening, I'm imagining are intrigued when you talk about law school. So that's a jump and your passion is already coming clearly through your voice as you're talking about what you're doing now. So now let's go back.
Yeah.
Go back a ways. All
Yeah.
right. So let's see. Before we talk about your sort of transition, what led you to law school? Let's start there.
Okay. So, well, we have to go a little bit further back
Okay, go for
to
it.
law school.
Wherever you want
So
to go.
it starts after college, or
Okay.
maybe even during college. So in college, I was a biology major and I was pre-med.
I
So I
love
guess
this. I love this on so many levels. On so many. Let me just pause for a second and say, I do this podcast and I do coaching and consulting, but I'm also a professor.
hmm
And I work with undergrad students. And so just hearing this part of your story already gives them permission to just be where they are. So
exactly.
anyway, tell us about college.
Yes, and that's what I tell all my, girls that I grew up with that babies that that I babysat now are in college are like confused. I was like, look at me. I'm the perfect example. I was pre-med. So I was pre-med majoring in biology and French, and French was something really random. I took it all through middle school and high school. They offered me a scholarship to major in French. So I was like, oh, why not? Okay, like I'll just add on another major. It's super easy. I'll do it. Funny thing is, when I graduated college, I realized I don't want to go to med school. I volunteered at a hospital and I just did not like it. I knew it wasn't for me. I wasn't doing it for me. Um, so I made the very, very, very hard decision, which a lot of immigrant kids will tell you is really hard to make, when you've made this big deal that you're going to be pre-med and become a doctor and your parents have all these like expectations for you. So I decide that's not what I want to do. And I graduate and I have these two degrees and I have no idea what to do with them. Um, Weirdly enough, I applied to a lot of jobs, and the one that I applied as kind of not a joke, but just like a random thing that someone told me about that I don't even really remember applying, I end up getting, which is to teach English in France.
Okay, now I'm going to leave it there as a cliffhanger. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's go back a little bit. I know that this is your experience and you're like, oh. So,
Yeah.
but you said something that was really important about you made a hard decision. You know,
Hmm.
your parents had expectations for you and somehow you still made the decision. So I didn't want to gloss over that part because that is really, really, I think, helpful for people to hear. All right,
Hmm.
so now let's go back to that decision point. We heard you say you just knew it wasn't for you after
Yeah.
being in the hospital. So
Yeah.
tell us more about the actual decision point.
It almost feels like my subconscious has just blocked it out because it's such a traumatic time. But I will say, so my background, I'm Indian, and we immigrated over here when I was really young, but and a lot of immigrants, Indian or not, will tell you there's this stability and just overall education that's really emphasized in immigrant families more than maybe other families. I don't know, but it's a very big focus in immigrant families. And I think there is this, you know, you, and this is for everyone, I think. You get into college and you're just supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And you're 18. That is crazy. That is crazy. You don't even know how the world works yet. I feel like I
Right.
finally found myself and I just turned 32. And I'm sure it's going to keep evolving when I turn, 42, 52, whatever. So, we're constantly changing. We're expected to know everything. And I remember it was junior year when I was volunteering. I was like, "Ugh, I hate this. What am I going to do?" And my only concern was, I'm going to disappoint my parents. What are my parents going to think? Instead of thinking of myself.
Mhm.
And that was so extremely hard. I mean, you could even see it on me. I had all these breakouts all over my body, like it was literally the stress is manifesting like physically on my body because I was so scared I couldn't tell them. It took me, I think maybe senior year is when I broke it to them, and they were just, I mean, they were not okay with it. They're like, I honestly, I blurred out the conversation, but I remember sitting down on the couch and telling them, and them just being really disappointed that I'm doing this naturally. And I don't blame them. It's like, I think every parent would do that. I have nothing against my parents for doing that. Nothing but respect for them for, teaching me to be successful. Clearly, the path here has been because of the way they paved it for me. So it just looks different than it looked at 18. But yeah, it was a really, really hard decision. And I look back and I commend that 17-year-old in me for standing up for myself because I don't know how I did it. And I don't know many 17-year-olds who would in my exact situation.
I mean, me too. I commend you. At 17, 27, 37, 47, it's difficult to go
Mhm,
against the people who love you the most, and they're
mhm,
doing what they think is best for you.
mhm.
So, yeah, that was amazing, especially at 17.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a very tough conversation to have. And
Yeah.
then following it up with, I'm gonna move to France was even crazier.
Okay, so that's where we left off on the cliffhanger. All right, so this
Yeah.
opportunity appears.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
tell us
So
about that.
this opportunity appears, and I am telling you, I tried all the other routes with biology, like labs, going to like these co-ops, things like, I mean, all the high success route, I put success in quotes because traditional success routes, and nothing was budging. And this was literally the only opportunity in front of me. And I was like, it's either this or I guess unemployment or like, whatever, just keep on searching and searching. And I decide, okay, I'm just gonna do it. And I had never traveled solo before. I had never been to Europe. I had lived abroad with my family before because again, we immigrated, so we had lived in other countries when I was young, but I was young and I really just remember living in the US. So I was like, okay, conversation number two with my parents. I'm moving to France. So you can
It was
imagine
a
how,
teaching opportunity though, right? Was there a
yes,
teaching? Okay. So there
yes.
was sort of it was a job of sorts.
Yes, yes. So it
Okay.
was a job opportunity.
Okay.
But they were worried about me being, youngest daughter alone in a country that doesn't speak the same language, all the things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so somehow, again, I think I blocked them out, but these are like tiny miracles happening in my life. Somehow my parents agreed to this. And I think it would have been even like how tough and whatever I was, it would have been really hard for me to do that without my parents' approval.
Yes.
Um, so somehow they say yes to it. I told it it's a 1 year contract, so it's not like I'm gonna go live there permanently, whatever. So my dad's like, okay, fine, I'll drop you off, see what it's like, and we'll be fine. So I end up doing that. So that's my introduction to travel. And I lived in a very tiny town called Vierzon, France. It is an hour outside of Paris in the center. So very tiny, small, small town. It's not at all, it's not Paris. Like imagine, someone from abroad going to like Toledo, Ohio or something. Something really random, nothing against any of the towns, just like a really small town. So naturally, no one spoke English. No one, everything was very different. It's like being on the countryside. I struggled with everything from just grocery shopping to finding an apartment, opening up a bank account, all the things that you kind of take for granted. I had to just start from scratch at 18, and I was like, what the heck have I gotten myself into? The funny thing is when my dad said he's dropping me off, I thought it was so lame. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that you're dropping me off. I'm 18 years old. But my goodness, if he wasn't there, I would have struggled even more. Like, it's just not even funny. Um, so he drops me off. I have an apartment. I sort of have a bank account. It's like Google Translate wasn't even a big thing then, so you're like kind of Google translating, but I majored in it, but speaking the language and what we learn are just completely different. It's true for English too. So I was nowhere near fluent in the beginning. So I struggled my way through it and I settled into my life there and I became a new person. It's like I was on my own, so I really had to just trust myself, depend on myself, and honestly change my personality to not survive, but enjoy my time there. So I used to be the shy, reserved kind of person. Like as a kid, I was, and then college kind of brought out the more extroverted side in me. But being alone in another country, you have to make, if you want to make friends, you have to be extroverted. So it really brought me out of my shell and made me this person that would just talk to strangers on the subway or I was traveling around a lot while I was there because once you're in Europe, it's really easy to access other countries. So I was traveling all the time. I was just staying at hostels, meeting people. I have friends from all over the world, and I realized, whoa, I didn't realize I was this person. I'm not extroverted. That's my sister. She's the one who's always like talking to everyone and all that. I'm the reserved kind of person. And I just realized like there's so much about ourselves that someone else tells us who we are and we just believe it. And we don't have the opportunity to excavate whether that's correct or not. And I had that opportunity in France. I had the opportunity to be like, wait, no, maybe I'm not the shy person. Maybe I am the bubbly person who likes to talk to strangers and this and that. So it was a really, I grew up a lot in that year, I would say, just being on my own and really trusting myself. And I think that's what's eventually led me down to the path that I am is having this deep trust and deep trust of my intuition, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially at a young age doing that and to
Mhm.
even go out and travel beyond the little town there. I
Yeah.
mean, you could have just stayed there and just stayed close to the job or whatever, but you sort of
Yeah.
had that adventurous spirit and
Yeah.
kind of just went out on your own. You said
Yeah.
something interesting. You said it's interesting how you might believe something along these lines. You
Mhm.
might believe you are what somebody else told you are. So, did somebody tell you were shy? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, and I think it's because so I grew up with an older sister and we just had kind of opposite personalities growing up. And so I think it's very easy for parents to be like, "Oh, she's the this kind of kid and she's that kind of kid." And again, I don't think they're meaning to do this in a malicious way at all. It's just what you get labeled as, you know? And so I think growing up my sister was more hyperactive than me, so she became like the really active person, and I was very focused on school and studying. I was very studious, so I became kind of the quieter kid who's doing that. And then that just never left in our family household, that was the norm. Like that didn't change. And I think that happens to a lot of people. So getting out of that and rediscovering yourself is really, really important, I think.
It is. I even did it later in life, a little later, not until my 30s, left the small town in Connecticut where I grew up thinking, I was the kind of kid, I was very quiet and shy, and I said, I'll never leave. While everybody else was dreaming about leaving, I'm like, why would they want to leave?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
had no
yeah.
intentions. And then they end up staying there. My sister has a very, let's say, vibrant personality, and I was the quiet one. And she's
Yep.
there. She stayed there, and her whole family's there. And I
Yeah.
was the one that left and didn't come back. I'm in California now, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. So I can relate to your story in that regard. All right, so
Yeah.
you're traveling all around Europe. All right, and you're
Having a great time, meeting people, traveled a ton. Something tells me to go to law school. And I think part of it is because I'm very success oriented. I know that about myself. So to me, there was still this nagging feeling of like, okay, what are you doing? Like, what are you gonna do after this? Like, okay, you're here for a year, it's fun, cool, but like, are you gonna do this for the rest of your life? Like, you can't. It's a 1 year contract. I think you can renew it a couple more times and that's it. So I think I really struggled. I still struggled with that. It's just what the way I was brought up, which is to be get good grades, get a good job, relationship, house, all the things, that linear path that you go down. And I was feeling really guilty that I still wasn't on that path. So I think that is part of the reason that I decided to go to law school. I took my LSAT in Paris, which if you didn't know, you can. I figured out a way to do that. And I think I was just having interesting conversations with people, to be perfectly honest. I wanted to do international law. Um, just the people that I've met, and then I was seeing how, every country was really different, the way that it was run and things like that. And I was genuinely interested in that as well. So I thought, okay, well, law school doesn't have any prerequisites. So, and I think this happens to a lot of smart people who don't know what to do. They go to law school because it has no prerequisites. So you're like, okay, I can apply to this. It's just the LSAT that you need to pass. So I end up taking the LSAT, I do fine, and I decide to go to law school after my year in France. So I applied to law school while I was in France. I got into Case Western in Cleveland and ended up moving there after France. So I'm in law school. I end up doing really great. Again, I'm a very studious person, so that's not like a big brag. It's just I've always just been good at school. So I end up doing well and I do like it. I like how it's challenging me. Law school is a lot more writing than people realize. People think it's a lot of arguing, but it's not. It's a lot of writing. And I was naturally good at writing persuasively. So end up doing well, end up getting a job at a law firm. So I had left all the international law behind in the 3 years that I was at law school. End up getting a job at a law firm, a private firm, doing corporate litigation.
Let me interrupt you for a second. How did your parents feel about this? I'm thinking they might have felt better about law school
Yes,
than
yes,
traveling
yes.
around France. Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes. So my parents were happy. My mom, it's funny, she was still a little iffy in the beginning because I think it's funny because now, it's changing now, but in the Indian community, you have a lot of doctors, you have a lot of engineers, and law school is like just now becoming a big thing. I don't know why, because it's still it's a professional degree, right? Just not a lot of people did it. So I think she didn't really know much about it. We didn't know a lot of lawyers. It wasn't really, their friends were in lawyers, friends' kids were in law school. I think I was one of the first within their friends to go to law school, one of their kids. So she was like iffy about it, but professional degree, they're happy, right? Like successful on paper, it's really good. And I will say it's not like I was miserable. So you could look at me and you could see like, oh, she is actually enjoying herself, even through law school and being a lawyer. And that is something I will say. I end up working at the law firm, and it's not an easy environment to be in. It definitely has its perks and ups and downs and everything. But I was, for the most part, enjoying it. I will say I'm really good at drawing boundaries, and I think I got that from when I was 18 and I had to tell my parents, no, I'm not going to law school or med school. That partners didn't really scare me too much. I think part of the law firm culture is that we're too scared to say anything and we'll do whatever, whoever asks you for. And I wasn't too much like that. Of course, I still wanted to do a really good job. It's not like I was just blowing off my job, but I was pretty good at drawing boundaries. I had some crazy hours, but it wasn't like I was working 80-hour weeks every week. So there was a good balance, and I still got to travel during all this time. I had another opportunity to live in London for a little while, doing an internship there. So I took that. So there was, I had the good balance of like traveling, all the things that I love, and I was making a lot of money at a law firm. So I was impossibly adult, like in a stable relationship, bought a house like at 25, 27 or something, like impossibly adult. Looking back, I'm like, what in the world? So I'm having a good time, and then this is so funny. And then one day I am talking to my sister on the phone, and I tell her, "Oh, hey, I gotta get off the phone. I'm sending recommendations to a couple of friends who are going to Europe." So all throughout my time in Cleveland, I became the friend who had travel recommendations just because I had lived abroad, and then I was also constantly traveling. So I told my sister, okay, it was a quick comment. I was like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta send some stuff. And she makes a quick comment saying, you should start a company doing this. And I was like, ha ha ha, yeah, I'm a associate at a law firm and I'm just gonna go start a company because I have all this time on my hands and not much to do. So she says that and I was like, ha ha, yeah, okay, bye. But I just couldn't get her words out of her, or couldn't get her words out of my mind. And again, I think you'll see a theme that if something comes to me and it sounds interesting to me, I will just follow through with it. So it just took me 1 week of her saying that to be like, okay, I think I might try this out. So I posted on my personal Instagram at the time to just friends saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing like travel consultation if anyone's interested, just to test out who would want. I mean, there was so much imposter syndrome where I was like, who's gonna want my recommendations? Like, why would they use me? And so I just put that out there, and then a couple of friends reached out, and then it kind of just started, more people started reaching out. And at one point, a girl that I went to college with reached out to me to plan her entire honeymoon.
Ooh,
Yeah. So that was a big one. I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay. Are you sure that You want me to do it? And she's like, yeah, I've seen your Instagram. She was following me on my Instagram where I posted about my traveling. She's like, I've seen you travel. I trust you. I like your vibe, like what you do when you're traveling, all this stuff. I think you can do a really great job. We've never been to Europe. We were going to use a travel agent, might as well help out or like use someone local or like help a local business. So that was the turning point where I was like, okay, this could be something. And I need an LLC now and a business bank account. My legal mind is like working at that point. So that was really the turning point of setting up my LLC. And yeah, that's really my story into it. And I did it alongside my attorney job for 1 year. And then I quit to go full time with my business. And
Wow.
here we are. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
So now I want to go back to the moment you might notice here. I like going back to a moment.
Yes, yes.
All right, let's go back to the moment where your sister just kind of threw that out there. Right. And
Mhm.
you said later it kind of stayed on your mind. But was there anything, did you get excited about it? Did you not even think about it? Or did you ignore it? Or like what was the feeling when she mentioned it?
Excitement. I couldn't get it out of my head. I was constantly thinking about it. I was in a relationship at the time and I had told him, "Hey, do you think this is a good idea?" And I still remember exactly what he said. He's like, "Yes, because look at the smile on your face." I was like a clown, just like, "Do you think this is a good idea? Like, I just think it could be really fun if I do this." He's like, "Yeah, you should absolutely do it."
That's a good clue for people when
Hmm.
they're wondering what to do. They might be at a crossroads and somebody might give them an idea. And if they
Hmm.
have that excited energy like you had and parent joy that it was visible on your face, that's a clue. And that it didn't go out of your mind. It stayed
Yeah,
with you. It stayed with you.
yes. And I will
Okay,
say
so now
it
let's
was,
talk about the I'm sorry, what
oh,
were you
sorry.
saying?
I will say it was relatively low risk for me at the time because I had a stable, stable, I'll put in quotes again, job. So it was kind of a, oh, why the heck not? Let me just give this a shot and see where it goes. So it was not like so much pressure. The pressure came later, which we'll get to.
Okay, now let's talk about that pressure moment because you say now fast forward a year later, and which is a short amount of time basically
It
to
is.
do that. But it's a theme with you. You're like, you don't waste time. Once you know, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly.
Once you know, you go, basically.
Yes, yes. People, I say people misunderstand me to be impulsive, but I think I'm intuitive.
You know. You're
Yeah,
just
you
confident.
know. And I
Yeah.
think we all know. We're
Yeah.
just scared to
Yeah.
make that decision. Um, so the going all in on the business was really scary. And again, it was kind of a situation that presented itself. And in a way, I was definitely not prepared. But there's never a good time. There may be a bad time, and I may have done it at a bad time, but you did it. It's in the past now. It's been 2 years. Um, so I get to a point where my lease is up on my apartment, and that relationship ended. So it was kind of like we were parting ways. We were both thinking about leaving the city. So it was this thing of like, okay, I kind of have to, I'm gonna leave my job if I'm gonna move to another city. And the plan was always to just go to another law firm or, if they had an office in the place that I was gonna go to, I would just transfer offices. So then I just kind of started thinking, okay, well, I have this thing that is growing. And it was growing with no advertisements or marketing or anything like that. I had an Instagram, but growing on Instagram is a whole nother story that we won't get into. It doesn't work as quickly as people think it does, especially for services. So I'm not doing any ads, I'm not doing anything. It's all word of mouth and it's growing. So I have this nagging feeling to go all in, but I am terrified. I'm terrified because it's been great doing this with a steady salary coming in, but now it's going to be all me and I have no idea what that looks like. I didn't have nearly as much money saved as I should have because I was living large, just having a great time. You're young, you're making a lot of money, yeah, you were having fun, or I was having fun. So I'm getting close to, that lease ending, and I'm just considering all my possibilities, and I don't really know where I want to move to. It was originally going to be LA, actually, and I couldn't transfer my license over to California. So there was that limitation, like my law license, because you had to take the bar all over again in California. So there were all these limitations to California and these things. So I just think, let me just try this out. I'm moving anyway. I have this time period. I can go somewhere and maybe travel for a little while. And then if I'm traveling, I can support myself with my business because I can do it from anywhere versus, even a remote attorney job, I'd have to, clock in for a certain amount of time. So sort of logistically, it was starting to make sense, but the only thing in the way was my fear. And I really had to just think back to all the times I had made a decision for myself and remember how I felt. And I realized every time I had done something brave or courageous, I really felt a lot of fear. So to me, fear and bravery are the same thing, I think. And I realized, okay, this fear that I'm feeling is not actually fear, but it's the same feeling. It's fear and it's courage and it's intuition. It's all the same things at the same time, and that's how I know this is the right decision for me. So it's almost like fear is what kind of drives me forward. So, yeah, I just decide I'm going to quit doing law for now and go all in on my business. And for a kicker, because, if it's me, I got to do something even crazier. I decide to go to Australia and travel and live there for an undetermined amount of time, up to a year. So, yeah.
Just when your parents were like, okay,
Yeah.
you're stable, they didn't have to worry about you too much.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um,
But good for
yeah.
you for making that. And you said something too that is, I think, important for people to hear. You said you had a nagging feeling. Even
Hmm.
though circumstances is sort of like a wake-up call, okay, the lease is up, the relationship is changing,
Hmm.
this is the time. But you said you had that nagging feeling, like this is it, and this is the time. I think that's an indicator. And to your point, how our intuition speaks to us.
Hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
And if I look back at I tell people my story and they're like, "What in the world?" But it's all comes down to intuition because I cannot tell you what made me go to France. I can't really sit here and tell you what made me go to law school or any of these what made me start this company. It's just like this little feeling inside me that I'm like, "Okay, I'm listening to it."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it gave you indicators to follow it, like we were talking before about the excitement.
Yes. Yes,
So so
exactly.
you so you started in Australia, but you're not in Australia now.
No, no, I'm
Okay.
not. So I started in Australia and it was a little tough for me. Not Australia itself, but just the situation that I was in. It was a little too much to go from ending a relationship, quitting your job, and then also moving countries.
Yes, a lot.
But yeah, I wanted to do it all. But you can't do it all. So that's a really good example of just swallowing your pride and realizing, hey, I can't do this right now. I cannot be in Australia. It's taking too much of a toll on me. I had a really hard time finding apartment there, and they were having like a housing crisis when I went there. So I was there for 4 months, and I realized this is great. I've gone to see a lot. It's a beautiful country. I didn't even get to put a dent in all the places I wanted to see. Um, let's just go back. You have a home, you have like parents will welcome you into your home, into their home. So let's just go back and focus on one thing. So I go back for the summer in St. Louis. So that's where I grew up. And I decided to really focus and get stable on my business. So that's when it starts slowly growing. Look at that. When you have a stable house and you're not worried about where you're going to live, you can actually focus on your business. And I will say one thing that also made me want to go all in on my business is the idea that I told you I was growing without any advertising or marketing or anything like that. And I was probably giving it 40% of my focus. So I thought if I wanted to grow at 100% rate, I need to give it my 100% attention, right? So, and that remained to be true because that summer I was able to give it the 100% attention and then it really started growing. Yeah. So, and then I decide, okay, I can still work from anywhere. So let me go abroad again. So I just got back from living in Bali in Thailand for 6 months. So that's now my schedule is summer in the US. Well, it's more like 6 months in the US and then 6 months out. And that's been doing well. I don't know how much longer I'll do it, maybe for one more year. And then I have to pick a place to live in, but that'll come to me intuitively.
Will, and it sounds like you found the right balance for you. You
Hmm.
know, that sort of inner adventurous spirit that has to be nurtured, and then there's also, attending to the business and doing that. So
Yeah,
it sounds like you found the right balance for you.
for
And it
sure.
sounds like you're right where you're supposed to be in your life. So would
Yeah.
you say you feel like you have a sense of fulfillment and purpose in your work expressed through your work?
Absolutely. I
Mm.
love that I can. The best part of my job is when clients come back from a trip and tell me what an amazing time they had and just being able to curate that very special experience for someone has been fulfilling in a way that I've never experienced in any of my other jobs. So that to me tells me everything I need to know about how I feel in this job. And I know for a fact it is right for me in this period of my life. And people think it's crazy when I say, oh, I don't know if I'll be doing this 10 years from now. And that's not because I don't want my company to be a success. It is a success, but it's also recognizing what you need and who you are and what is aligned to you changes in different stages of your life. This is very much aligned with what I'm doing, where I am in my life right now. In fact, I just introduced a new offering, which is going to be women's retreats through my company. So again, it's new things are coming. So it's evolving. It's not the same thing that it was when I started 3 years ago. Now I'm moving in this direction. So the purpose keeps changing or evolving, I should say. The purpose and fulfillment keeps evolving, and that can only happen when you truly have space to listen to what you want right now.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And I teach that too, that your purpose changes and evolves as you change and evolve. Because
Hmm.
your real purpose is just to be who you are and express it.
Exactly.
That's what it is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you have found it. All right. So now let's just take a couple more minutes and speak to the woman who is at a crossroads in her own career. Maybe she's back where you were early on when you were 17 and doing something she hates, or maybe somebody just presented her with an idea like your sister did that really
Yeah.
ignites her, but she's too afraid to move, even though she knows something's there that's calling her. Or she's in a place where she just doesn't know what the next right thing is.
Hmm.
What's something from your professional or personal experience? You seem to have a lot of self-awareness. What's something you could say to just give her a little bit of hope or some advice?
Mm. I would say don't confuse stability with fulfillment. I think that was very hard for me, especially when I was deciding to go full time with my business. I kept saying, but I have this amazing, stable job. Like, why would I choose the harder route to start a business, something I know nothing about? I didn't do any business school stuff or, not even as an elective. It was never, ever even on my mind. So yeah, so don't confuse stability for fulfillment. For so long, I thought if I followed this path that we're all told to do, good grades, good job, steady paycheck, and I don't think that's a bad thing to aim for. I think it's great. Stability, but stability is an illusion, right? So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so stability is an illusion. It can, like, your job that you think is super stable can go away at any time. And I think you can talk to hundreds and hundreds of people that it has happened to. Um, so follow your happiness. If you think that stability is going to bring you happiness, I don't think it is. Fulfillment is what's going to bring you happiness. And I will say, when I was a lawyer, again, I have nothing against being a lawyer. You'll never hear me talking bad about my time when I was at the law firms because I worked at great places. I liked what I was doing at the time. I just realized this other thing is calling me, and right now that is what's going to be fulfilling for me. The time I was a lawyer, that was fulfilling during that time. It just, my purpose changed, my priorities changed. So just give yourself the space to really think about what you want and whether what you want is what you actually want or what society, parents, family, everyone was telling you is the thing that you should have because it's stable and less scary.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's it.
Yeah.
No more to say. There's no more to say except for, people might want to know where they could follow you, where they can be in touch and follow you, have an amazing journey, and only to watch and see where it goes next. They might just for that alone
Yes, I can't
want to
wait to see
follow you.
where it goes.
So where
Yes.
can they be in touch with you?
Yeah, so my company is Next Horizon. You can find us at nexthorizontravel.com. On Instagram, we are Next Horizon Travel. And my personal page, I do post more inspirational kind of stuff about my journey, and that is Riya Finds the World on Instagram. And Riya is spelled Riya. Riya Finds the World. Yeah.
Ria, it's been a delight talking with you. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much. I had such a great time talking to you as well, and thanks for having me on here to share my journey.
Such a joy. Okay, everyone, I'd love to hear your response to this episode and hear where you are. Maybe you might be at a crossroads. You can message me. I spend most of my time at LinkedIn. I'm on the other channels too, at Robin L. Owens, PhD, at Robin L. Owens, PhD. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.